All those words regarding the youth and vigor that I still possess I feel a little strange sitting instead of standing. But at this particular moment, I do feel a tremendous sense of a person who, the Chazal say that when you give a hesped for a person, he says, according to Chazal, he says, I want you to give a good one because the hosum ko'imne, because I'm going to be standing there. And that's a very difficult concept to be able to grasp. But nonetheless, I do feel that after listening to the remarkable, eloquent remarks that were made by the chairman and by Rabbi Newberger and by my son, that Chosum Ka'imne, I'm standing. Even when I'm sitting, I'm standing. Because you see that the Malochim, when we compare them to the living, we call them Omdim. They are those who stand. And they are Omdim in the midst of others who are Yoshvim. So obviously in the Lashon of Torah, Omed or Yoshev is not what we understand normally. But you can sit and be a Omed, and you can stand and you could be a Yoshev. I want to thank each and every one of you who has come here this evening. And I want to thank those who have put together this event. It's a very unusual kind of an opportunity that a person has after so many years to be able to acknowledge and to express gratitude for what a shul has meant to him, and to hear what he has meant to the community and to the shul. There is so much emes, and there is so much feeling and emotion, and there is so much ahava and kavod, which is mutual, flowing in two directions, from an individual to a tzibur, and from a tzibur to an individual. And I find it very difficult to find the words that will properly describe for you and define for you and delineate what my emotions and feelings are this evening. Of course, we're supposed to begin always by Hakaras HaTov. And there is a tremendous Hakaras HaTov that I have for those who have put this evening's program together. It's a Hakaras HaTov for what I experienced and felt very deeply this Shabbos morning. Because this Shabbos morning, as I said to some members of my family, was totally unscripted. No one had sat down and described or had written a script. Whatever happened, happened spontaneously. And to a great extent, that is the secret of the response and reaction that we have for one another in this shul. We do not measure it by the calendar or by the clock. We do not measure it by the lapse of time. On the contrary, it's almost as though the reason we have no clock in our shul is because I always felt that when you come to a shul that is yours, a place for tefillah, for Talmud Torah, for Gemilas Chesed, for tzedakah, when you have a shul in a community which plays such an important role in the day-to-day living of human beings, and of Jews especially, that when you have that, you are Lamala Min Asman. And if you can transcend time, it is a wonderful gift. It is a fantastic gift. Because we are so used to living in a time warp where there is the past and there is the present and there is the future, that we sort of lose sight of living itself, just to be together with other human beings, to be together with other people, to have neighbors that are Shchenim Tovim, to have friends who are Yedidei Nefesh. And of course, we know that it's always a two-way street. Never, ever is it a one-way street. Over my career, I have written quite a bit, and I have tried to formulate my thinking in a manner that is mesudar, that has order. Because basically, when you speak to people, when you communicate with people, it should really consist of words and of concepts which have a beginning and a middle and an end. It should be mesudar. It has to have that order and that sense of order. Now, whether this is something that you would call a literature approach, whether you would call this an approach of a yeshiva that knows exactly what its purpose in this world is, but there is Seder. There is no yeshiva that I know of that does not have Sidurim. There is Seder. There is order. I was telling some of my children the other day that I remember as a youngster hearing from one of my Rebbeim a story about a Rosh Yeshiva who once said that if I can see the way a young man in inclement weather takes off his galoshes his rubbers. And the way he puts them down on the floor in the so-called mudroom. And I see the way he throws them around to different areas of the room. Or lehefech, the way he puts them together side by side. I will tell you whether he'll understand a difficult Tosfos or not. There is Seder. And this shul, over the many years that I have been here, and the different generations that have been part of my life and of my experience, that I have always admired the fact that by and large, we are people of Seder. We are people that have a sense of order and a sense of how to put things in their proper place. How to have a sense of priority and to know how to differentiate between the important and the inane. In one of my writings, I have an essay on today's Seder. And the essay that was reprinted in the book that you have, I discussed there the following. And that is that what is a Talmud? Whom do we call a student, a pupil? Is the connection and relationship between a student, a pupil, and his teacher, is it a static one, or is it dynamic and evolving? At the beginning, a child or a student is a makabel. He accepts. He receives. And then, as time goes on, he changes from being a makabel, a recipient, and with the passage of time, he becomes a mishtatev. He becomes one who participates and becomes a partner. I have this written in an essay, and I believe that that is the core of the relationship of a rabbi with the congregation. Heaven help us if in our connection and relationship that the rabbi and the congregation become frozen in time. It cannot be. There has to be that dynamic growth. There has to be a constant change in the role of the one who gives and the one who receives. And that's why when we speak of a Talmud and a Rebbe, when we speak of a participant as opposed to one that is a pupil, that is why when we speak of these roles, we call the person a ben, a son, a child. And a ben is a bona, a son, a child, a daughter, is always a builder, always a builder. And they cannot remain static and just be in one place. When Yaakov asks his sons to help him gather stones to build a mound, he was casting them in the role not of being servants or being obedient followers, but he calls them achim. He calls them brothers. He doesn't call them bonim. And over the many years that I have been privileged to be in this community and in this shul, I can tell you that the secret of our success has been the fact that we have looked upon each other not as a Rebbe and Talmidim, not as a parent and children, but it's always been achim. It's always been achim. Now, when we speak of achim, you realize what we are saying is that we are looking upon our connection with every man, woman, and young individual in our shul, not as being just a makabel. Because if you're going to have a shul where there's the giver and the receiver, eventually that shul cannot continue. It has to be a mishtatif. It has to be not just talmidim who are makablim. Every teacher knows that. Every Rosh Yeshiva knows that. Every parent knows that. Every person that deals with other human beings knows that. You must be extremely sensitive to the needs of your students, of your congregants. You must be extremely sensitive to the needs of your children, especially as they grow up. Only if one appreciates the passage from being a makabel, a recipient, to becoming a mishtatef, a partner and participant, can the relationship between a father and his children, a teacher and his talmidim, a rabbi and his congregants be a productive and meaningful one. This is basically the secret of success in all human relationships. There was a writer who was an Irishman, and he spent time as he was maturing on the continent in Paris. His name was Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett once said the following. He was talking about his life's experience. He was talking about challenges that confronted him. He was talking about the nisyonos that had challenged him. And he said the following. He said, ever tried, ever failed. No matter. Try again, fail again, but this time fail better. Fail better. There is so much chokhmah and wisdom in that. When you deal with the community, you realize that the journey is never complete. You're always en route. And when you try, you don't always succeed. Very often you fail. Doesn't matter. What you do is try again. Fail again. But this time fail better. 65 years is a period of time that is filled with success and failures. You have generations and generations and generations. You have, on your personal level, you have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And in your professional experiences, you have the opportunity to build or to destroy. But you always try again and again, and you say to yourself, you'll fail again, but try to fail better. I thank you for the opportunities that you have given to me and to those who started closest and dearest to me. You have given us the opportunity to always try, to fail, and at times to succeed. You have said, try again, fail again, but this time fail better. And that is the secret of a person who works with a kehillah, with a tzibur. That's the secret of all human relationship. Husbands and wives, parents and children, siblings, one with another. You're not going to be a person that has success all the time. You're going to fail, but you're going to try again. And when you try again, you're going to try to fail better. I thank you for allowing me not just the success that I have, Baruch Hashem, enjoyed, but I thank you for the many, many years that you were understanding enough, kind enough, generous enough to let me, even when I failed, to constantly fail better. And I want to thank you for the years of patience that you have shown me, for the years of friendship, for the years of love, for the years of derech eretz and respect, and for the kavod that has always been mutual, always. We always gave derech eretz one to another. And there is nothing greater in life than to live the life of derech eretz, which after all is kodma l'Torah, that still comes before Torah. And so I thank you for your outpouring of affection, for your friendship. I thank my family. I thank my wonderful wife. I thank my wonderful children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I thank them all for their patience and understanding and for their willingness to let me fail better all the time. And I wish you all arichas yomim v'shonim, and that you should be zocha, all of you, to have a life that is filled not with success at all times, but a life where you even fail from time to time, but you fail better each time. Have a good book.